over race in a way that was actually far to the left of where Hispanic and Black Americans were on this issue, they found that the media had shifted radically how it talked about these issues.
Watch this, folks. You won't believe Abby Phillips' meltdown last night on CNN. She goes full outrage mode after powerhouse author Bataya Ungar-Sargon drops the hammer, calling out the left for their non-stop, race-obsessed, anti-white agenda. It's peak Abby Phillip hypocrisy, and I have the receipts to prove it. And before we get into this, I just want to remind you all that this world gets crazier day by day, and there are more threats out there than I can even count at this point. So if you're not prepared for the worst-case scenario and have an emergency food storage already, it's time to get one started. And right now, if you want to get it started, you can save $200 as well as support one of your favorite YouTube channels. So head on over to preparewithdronetek.com right now and check that out. Thanks a lot.
There's a lot of history that it's in these museums, but he's focused on one thing, and that is that there's too much slavery being mentioned in the United States of America. That's very odd, Batya, honestly.
Starting around 2011, 2012, sociologists started to notice a shift in white liberal opinion polling to where white progressives became more extreme in their views on race than Black and Hispanic Americans. And they called this, the sociologists did, called it the Great Awakening. And when they postulated, where did this come from? Why did white progressives suddenly start obsessing over race in a way that was actually far to the left of where Hispanic and Black Americans were on this issue? They found that the media had shifted radically how it talked about these issues. So for example, in 2010, the words white supremacy were mentioned 75 times in the Washington Post and the New York Times.
But the media is different from museums. But the media is different from museums. But the media is different from museums.
Wait a minute, you mean the same museum that claimed family structure, hard work ethic, being on time, the scientific method, holidays, competition, and justice are white supremacy?
Yes! Yes! Yes!
But the media is different from museums.
In 2020, the words white supremacy were mentioned 700 times in the Washington Post and the New York Times and 2,400 times in NPR. The word racism 4,000 times in 2020. The words white and racial privilege from 2013 to 2019 grew by 1,500% in the New York Times and the Washington Post. And the word slavery itself exponentially skyrocketed as a percentage of words. I'm offering this only to suggest.
I understand. I'm just wondering what do you think is the problem with talking about slavery, white supremacy, racism, etc.?
You. First, let's just establish that there's absolutely nothing wrong with teaching the history of slavery, Jim Crow, and racism against Black Americans. It absolutely should be taught. But the whole white supremacy narrative from the left is a total boogeyman. Sure, there's some white supremacists out there, but they're mostly in prison and a tiny fringe of the more than 150 million white people in America. There's also Black supremacists, Asian supremacists, Jewish people who think they're the chosen ones, and Muslims who want to dominate the world.
Oh, that was different.
But for the extreme far left that is now the mainstream of the Democrat Party, it's all about making people suspicious of the whites. There's a lot of racism out there, don't get me wrong, but in study after study, white people come out being the least racist.
So the point I'm trying to make here is that liberals will say, well, this is a reflection of reality, but of course it isn't. This is a reflection of a newfound obsession that was driven by the media, and that doesn't reflect either the moral evil of these things or the historical accuracy.
I do want to dive into what you mean by that, because you say that you don't think it's a reflection of reality. Based on what?
Where to begin, where to begin?
The problem here is that the left and Democrats have taken history, warped it, and weaponized it against both their political and racial enemies. Abby Phillip and Baraki Seller here both believe that slavery is a 100% white endeavor. They don't want kids to know that slavery was a much bigger problem and went on for much longer in South America and other parts of this world. They don't want to talk about the fact that Black Africans were selling off other Black Africans to the world and using the continent as some sort of one-stop one-stop shop for slaves. Instead, Hollywood puts out movies about the Africans who captured and sold African slaves and portray them as heroic figures. They want very little emphasis, if any, on the fact that it was white people who sacrificed a lot of blood and life in order to end slavery, while brown, Asian, and black people have continued slavery to this day.
Oh, that was different.
All they want to do is push that white people and capitalism are bad.
I want to dive into what you mean by that, because you say that you don't think it's a reflection of reality. Based on what?
Well, slavery,
based on the idea that those things don't exist, that white supremacy doesn't
that
exist, racism doesn't exist, that we shouldn't be talking about it
anymore? Based on the idea, obviously all these things I think are evil, but there's not more slavery now to the tune
yeah,
of...
but I think part of the problem,
than there was
Batia, is that
respectfully, that's
hold on a
not
second, Bakari. Part of the problem is that back, not that long ago, in the 50s, 60s, even beyond that, when there was actual Jim Crow happening in this country, people were actually treating Black people as second-class citizens. We weren't talking about those things at all.
But in
those words were virtually never mentioned.
Abby, you don't
so is that better? Was it better then, or was it worse then?
For fuck's sake, there has been endless media since I've been a kid about how evil and bad white people are and how victimized black people are. To the point that Jamie Foxx can get on national TV and say this to roaring applause.
Django Unchained, I play a slave. How black is that? And in the movie, I have to wear chains. How whack is that? But don't be worried about it, because I get out the chains, I get free, I save my wife, and I kill all the white people in the movie. How great is that? And how black is that?
It's 2025. Black people kill a lot more white people than the other way around.
But in
those words were virtually never mentioned.
Abby, you don't
so is that better? Was it better then, or was it worse
You
then?
don't think that 2013 is the same as the 1960s,
But you're missing,
right?
respectfully, and I've had this debate many
Do you
times.
really think that there's as big a difference between the 1960s
but we're missing-
and
I don't.
missing
That's
the
not my point.
point.
My point is that the use of the language in present day, or the lack of the use of the language back when racism was apparent every single day in the streets of America, doesn't reflect really anything except perhaps a better awareness of the reality that we live in as a country.
That's not the
Do you think
point.
the country was more racist in 2013?
That's not the point.
Shut up! Shut up!
What do you all think? Is Donald Trump going to get rid of all the real history about slavery and Jim Crow, then replace it with something that he just made up? Or is he just correcting the left's revisionist history over the course of the last 8 years? Let me know in the comments, and if you're still here, might as well hit that like button and subscribe. I do post on a regular basis, so make sure to keep checking back for more. Thanks a lot.